Hi everyone, Marlene here. Um, Thank you guys for joining me and for enjoying the content that I'm creating. Today's video, I wanted to talk about being stuck. This topic came up because somebody who's close to me has found themselves in a situation where they are in an uncomfortable, undesirable place at the moment in terms of their work situation. But somehow they are convinced that um, this is where they are supposed to be. And so it made me think about how many times do we find ourselves in a position where things are uncomfortable, things are not ideal by any means. And yet we struggle to find the impetus to make a change. We struggle to make a move. We struggle to even make a decision about what action to take. And so today's video, I wanted to chat with you about what to do about getting unstuck. So the first question I thought would be relevant is, what do I believe about where I am at this moment? So in this example, the person is in an unsatisfactory work situation. Unsatisfactory because they know that they are capable of a lot more. Unsatisfactory because promises have been made by the employer and those promises have not been realized. And so when you are doing all that you know to do in terms of doing a great job, doing the best that you are able to, and your contribution is being recognized, but yet you are not seeing the rewards, the changes that you need in your life, whether that be monetary reward, whether that be a change in your work conditions in terms of hours or days or a more vacation, or even changes in terms of promotion. So when those things that you are wanting from the situation are not coming about, or if it's in your relationship and you feel like you are the one who's always contributing, who's always there, who's always the pillar of strength in the relationship, and you feel that your partner is not reciprocating, what do you believe about the situation that you find yourself in? And I think that is very important because sometimes, especially when we come from a position of lack, when we come from a position of not having had a lot, or when we come from a very traumatic, challenging experience, when we step into something that seems to be a little bit better than the challenge we've just come through, we tend to have this notion that just because it's a little better, this must be what God had in store for me. This must be what God has brought me into. And so, yes, the situation might be a little better than where we come from, but it's still not living up to the full potential of what you know you deserve, what you know you are capable of, and what you know you are capable of contributing. So we have a tendency to become comfortable in this transitionary phase, in this transitionary situation. We don't recognize that, yes, I was in a terrible situation or an uncomfortable situation, and now I'm stepping onto something that can potentially carry me to another opportunity, to an even better opportunity. But as Carolyn Mace says in one of her trainings, when we step off the shore of what has been challenging, what has been uncomfortable, and we step onto something that feels a little better, that feels a little more solid, we often assume that this raft or this little boat that is now taking us away from the challenging situation is what God had intended, is the next shore, is the next place of growth and development and stability. Whereas the raft or the boat is merely there to help you move away from the challenging situation. It's actually transport to something better. So I think that in answering the question about what do we believe about ourselves when we assume that the boat or the raft that is actually our transport is now our new permanent situation, I think what we believe is that this is all I am worth. This is all that God intended for me. The raft is maybe 5% better than the situation that I am leaving. And so simply because of that tiny incremental difference, we assume that this is the next shore that we should set up our base and build a life on. And so very quickly, the raft or the boat will become uncomfortable, but we will start to rationalize. For example, when you move from land onto a boat, you are in a body of water. Water is not as stable as the landmass that you have just left. Yes, there might be, tremors and earthquakes and whatever happening on the landmass that you have just left, but water is not meant to house you on a permanent basis. It's not meant for you to set up your building and to plan the next several decades of your life in. The body of water and the vehicle that is placed in the water is merely a means of conveyance from this crumbling, challenging situation on one shore, moving you to the other shore. So because of the nature of water being unstable, being not supportive of establishing the life that you necessarily want, we have to rationalize and tell ourselves certain stories about why building on the seemingly unstable platform becomes our norm, becomes reasonable. And so I wanted to just point out to us that building on an unstable platform such as water, a boat in the river, a boat on the ocean, you won't be able to have all the comforts or the luxuries or the stability that you really desire. And so the stories we start to tell ourselves in this transitionary transportation phase is that, okay, this must be what God intended for me. Maybe if I just hang in here, if I keep proving myself, if I keep working harder, things will improve. We completely disregard all the evidence of months and sometimes years that have gone by, and we tell ourselves that maybe I just need to do a little bit more. Maybe I just need to give more of myself. And we do this because on the one hand, the situation is a tiny bit better than where we came from, but also we are so afraid that if I move from this unstable, unsatisfactory situation, what I move to next might be even worse than where I came from before this unstable situation. So it's a combination of fear of the unknown. If I leave this unsatisfactory situation, will the thing that I move to next be better, or will it be worse? And what do I do if it's worse? And so I think that the challenges are quite quite personal. For every person, there will be different reasons as to why we are afraid, why we feel that we have to stay stuck, while we feel we have to almost kowtow to a lesser version of the life that we imagine for ourselves. So when we ask ourselves the question of what is it that I believe about myself in order, or what do I believe about myself that allows me to stay in this situation? I think it can point to a lack of self-belief. I believe that this is all I am worth. I don't deserve better. Better is for other people. I cannot make anything better happen for myself. And therefore, it's probably better if I just stay here and try to tough it out with this difficult, uncomfortable situation. The second question I think we can ask ourselves is, what do I believe about what God's will is for me? And I think this is an interesting one because it requires that we step outside of ourselves. We step into trying to understand or get a sense of God's intention for giving me life at this time. Why would God place me here? Why would God give me the gifts, the experiences, the opportunities that He has given me and place me in this situation? And I think it's a great opportunity here to do a retrospective look and see all the things that God has carried you through, all the doors that He has opened for you, and does that track record align with this notion that this is all you deserve? An unsatisfactory, unstable, and unhealthy situation is all you deserve. Could it be that God has placed you on this earth to live an unsatisfactory, unstable, unhealthy, unloved life? I don't think so. We know that God's aims are always to prosper us. And so if this situation does not feel like me prospering, whether that be prospering in a spiritual, psychological, physical, financial, health-wise sense, if the situation is not prospering me, then I need to ask myself some questions. Do I have a proper understanding of what God's intention is with my life? Do I have a proper understanding of what God's intention is with having me in this position, whether it's the job or the relationship or whatever the situation might be? And I think this is something that we often need to meditate on for hours, for days. What is God's intention for me? And does this situation align with that intention? And then our third question I think can look at is, what would I like to believe and know about me? And I think this is very important, especially after we have meditated on what we understand God's purpose for our lives to be. Because this then presents an opportunity to align what I think I am placed on this earth for with what I know God's intention for placing me on this earth is. And so when we think of what God's intention is for us, we don't hear any message of settle. We don't hear any message of there's a limit on what my plans are for you. God's plans for us are abundance and love and joy and peace, and to know his kingdom, right? As joint heirs in his kingdom. And so as an heir in his kingdom, how would it be possible for God to intend my unhappiness, to intend my my discomfort? So I think that these would be interesting questions for us to just ponder and meditate on as we go through our lives, as we experience challenging situations and are unsure about how to navigate those situations. And yeah, I think that when we go through a place of stuckness, a place of I'm not where I want to be, but I'm too afraid to make a move. I'm too afraid to even contemplate that there might be something better for me because I am so afraid of losing the little that I do have. I'd call our attention to Abram, who in the Bible was living with his family. He was surrounded by people he knew, um, people he loved, who loved him, who cared about him. He was in a wealthy, well-established family, and yet God called him away from that. There was no guarantee of where it was that God would be leading him to. There was no guarantee of comfort or ease, but he responded to the call. And so when we think of our challenges, our stuck situations, that very feeling of stuckness, that very feeling of dissatisfaction is an indication that God is trying to tell you something. God is trying to call you to something better. The question is, will I respond or will I hunker down and make this uncomfortable transitionary place my home? Or will I pursue the promised land of the next opportunity, the next situation, the next relationship that God might have for me? And so in my own experience, I find that relying on my own abilities, my own knowledge, my own skill is not sufficient. I need to be completely surrendered to God and allow him to lead me. But I also need to posture myself in a way that I can hear what he is saying to me in terms of which direction to take and which opportunities to engage with. So I would love to encourage you to meditate on these questions and just spend some time getting to know that intimate connection with God. So the questions are, what do I believe about where I am? Second question is, what do I believe about what God's will is for me? And the third question, what would I like to know about me? What would I like to know about me? I think that sometimes we have a very mental understanding or belief about what God intends for us or who he wants us to be. But there's a very, very different experience of knowing mentally and knowing within your heart, your blood and bones, your very DNA, what God intends your purpose to be in this world. So I would recommend that we all meditate on these questions and hear what God has to say, hear where He is intending for us to go. And so thank you guys for joining me, and thank you for listening to this content. And yes, if you enjoy it, please subscribe and like the video, and I hope to see you guys at the next video. Thanks.